All right, Mayor, Council. So the next item on the agenda is our asset inventory assessment. And I'm going to ask Malik Balrami.
Yes, sir.
Yep, got it. Is with us this afternoon with Withers and Regno to present the AI study, which has been a multi-year grant-funded effort focused on taking a comprehensive look at the condition, risk, and long-term sustainability of our water and wastewater infrastructure. The purpose of this work is to move us from reactive maintenance toward a more proactive, data-driven asset management approach. Malik will walk us through the findings, recommended priorities, and next steps. And I just want to acknowledge that with staff efforts jointly with JP and Jay and Zach and working with Withers and Ragnall, we had secured over $850,000 to do this work. And we just found out last week that we've secured another $300,000 to continue to move it forward. So just kudos to the staff and Withers and Radnor for assisting us with that. Thank you. All right.
Do you have a
Karen, can you get Malik the clicker? And then Malik, do you want to stand there at the podium?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Good afternoon. As Mr. Chris said, I'm Malik Barami, and I'm the Director of Asset Management for Withers Ravenel, and I'm here to talk to you guys about your water and sewer AIA projects that we did with you guys collaboratively. Today we're going to, I have to stay near this. Today we're going to go over what an AIA is, what you'll get out of it as an asset management plan. We'll go over the project scope, the system overview of your inventory for your water and sewer system. We'll talk about condition and criticality analysis, which informs the risk priority. We'll talk about some recommended actions in the years to come and with the additional funds that you guys just got approved. And then my colleague will go over the rate study, Shannon will, and we'll talk about next steps. So asset inventory and assessment is a program by North Carolina DWI, Department of Water Infrastructure, which provides grants for localities to inventory their system, to know what they have, what condition it's in, how much life it has left, what's the risk, and develop that charter, that map that you guys can march by. So every asset management plan is going to focus on answering some of these questions: current systems, sustainable level of service, critical to sustain. That goes back to the risk part that we'll cover. We'll talk about the CIP and O&M. Again, the risk informs the CIP and gives you guys a short list of the projects that you fund and what is the long-term strategy. So let's take a step back and just talk about an asset management program from a really high level. And this, I'm not very smart, so this makes sense to me. You start with a mission, and that mission is performed in a context, and it leverages certain assets to accomplish the goal of the mission. So you get your objectives from your mission, and you get your constraints. They could be environmental, they could be financial, they could be operational, resourcing, whatever they are, and you get your constraints. And then the goal is to have high efficacy, high efficiency asset utilization to achieve those objectives. So you got your mission, you got your objectives. That's when we get the stakeholder input. And in this process, we've worked with the town staff. We've gotten a lot of great input and involvement in the project. And the stakeholder input goes into your context and constraints, and then you guys got to decide, like, I have this much money. How do I prioritize expenditure of this money? What is the most critical thing that I can put that money towards? That's where you make the decisions. You execute the assets, high efficiency, high efficacy, and then you get data and KPI, which you make your decisions for going around the clock next time around. So that's what we're going to talk about today. On this visual, you can see that we've color separated everything that's been done as part of the phase one existing asset management and assessment. Again, we did the inventory of your assets. We talked about establishing level of service. We talked about operation O&M and O&M procedures and O&M recommended standards. We performed a data gap analysis to determine from the GIS and the records that you guys had, what critical data sets were missing that need to be there to inform the program. Then we help update those data points and give you guys a more complete inventory. It's an iterative process, so every time you just nudge it in the right direction. We included the asset condition, coming up with a condition proxy or an actual condition assessment for your assets to know what shape they're in. From there, we take the updated inventory and the condition and everything that we build up behind it. What you can see is in dark color, that's phase two, and we just talked about the $300,000. I'll explain in the coming up slides that the hydraulic model and the growth projections, that's kind of worked in, and this can help fund that effort for the village. Well, we leverage the risk-based prioritization to make sure that you're not addressing worst first, but rather which one is the worst one to fail for us, for a community. And the rate study, as I mentioned, Shannon will go over in a little bit, and then I'll go over your capital improvement plan, which again, as mentioned earlier, it took a huge effort from the staff, and they provided a lot of great input, a lot of good data for us to leverage. I'll go over some of the life cycle model results that we did for you guys. That basically, we created a model that takes your inventory of assets and ages it, tells you at what year in the future you need to replace those assets and why. Is it condition or is it end of life? And then the O&M recommendations, and that completes your asset management plan. So as was mentioned earlier, for this project, we had $253,000 of state funds for water and sewer, $253,000 for water, which were leveraged to complete this project, which is fantastic. We had the 6 tasks in the project were PM, grant administration, the data request and record review, the GIS mapping, condition assessment, which was sewer only, and the asset management plan, and then the financial analysis and the rate study. So task 2, which was our data request, this is what I was earlier mentioning. You know, we took all of your GIS inventory that you had, and we took over 20 boxes of paper records that were around the village that people would have to go to a physical copy to pull it up when something failed. And we incorporated that into a GIS database and found out wherever there were gaps in the data. We completed the data gaps by supplementing it with additional information. And this provides we do all this so that your operational staff have this information at their fingertips. So when a water valve fails or you have a water main break or something like that, you don't need to get somebody in the office to pull up that flat file and pull up the Mylar and look at it. You could just access it on the tablets and the devices that you guys have. This information, and here are some screenshots of the mobile devices that you can get. This information was in the sequence of the GIS field survey, checking the water and sewer system connectivity, making sure a pipe is connected to a valve is connected to a pipe, and a hydrant is connected to a valve and a pipe, and so on. QA, QC of the data, and then this is a critical piece because nobody knows your system better than your operators. And we leverage this system map book to capture the institutional knowledge. We basically generate the map books and sit with staff, town staff, and redline it, say, hey, does this look good? Does this sound right? And we update those. And even that goes into the GIS deliverable, which gives you that ArcGIS Online Esri product that you guys leverage to pull up the inventory. Speaking of inventory, on the left is your water main inventory. You have about 44 linear miles of water line, or over 230,000 linear feet, 498 system valves, 167 hydrants, your basin, and 16 groundwater wells. For your sewer system, you have about 29,000 linear feet or 5.6 miles of gravity sewer and over 200,000 linear feet of force main, which is about 39 linear miles. 106 manholes and 39 lift station. That excludes the residential grinder. For the condition assessment for gravity sewer, we did the smoke testing, and the findings were that some of the manhole lids needed to be made airtight, watertight, to prevent stormwater from getting into your sewer system, because the cost of treating stormwater as sewer water is really expensive. So you want to just keep the two separated. And there were just some minor ones that are being updated, sealing the manholes. And for the lift stations, we validated the previous recommendations that staff had and are implementing with regards to replacement of pump replacements. And the value of that is that the system performance is basically you're moving, like you said, we're moving from a reactive to a proactive model of executing this. This map shows the water valves across the island. The recommendation for this is to install 155 valves to give you guys flexibility for your water system, so you can isolate and shut down parts of the system without having major ripple effect impact of having to shut down large sections for maintenance or repair or restoration of service. Our asset management plan, these are the components of the asset management plan. Asset inventory, I went over, that's complete. Again, thank you guys, thank you to the town staff. You guys were absolutely critical to it. The risk analysis is complete. The CIP workshop is complete. O&M improvements and strategies complete. Life cycle model complete. Rate study is complete. Shannon will go over that in a little bit. Draft AMP is on schedule. It'll be completed in March and be given to the town. I'm sorry, the draft is complete and the final will be done by the end of March, and you guys will have. I want to take a second to go over at a high level. I know you can't see the small text. You don't need to worry about it. And just to give you guys a perspective, basically you got the intersection of two factors. How likely is something to fail? And when it does fail, what are the negative consequences of that failure? So this methodology is what we leverage to generate a risk score. In the following slides, you'll see that. So likelihood of failure for sewer system, we use the for the gravity mains was the estimated remaining useful life, which is usually based on age and material, and the smoke testing result data that I went over earlier. For the force mains, it was estimated useful remaining life just based on the date of install of the pipe and material. And then for manholes, visual assessments. So the breakdown of the likelihood of failure or the condition of the system is gravity mains, 94% of them were in good, 6% in fair. Force mains, 96% in good, 4% in fair. Manholes, 8% good, 92% fair. You guys have a relatively young, resilient system right now, so that also explains, this aligns with what we expect to see from a young system. For the consequence of failure, and again, for the consequence of failure, we're taking into account what would happen, who would lose water when what would happen I'm talking about sewer. What would happen if this sewer didn't function? What services would it be? Is it the fire department? Is it the public works? What are the consequences of those potential failures? So critical infrastructure, critical users like the fire department I mentioned, bodies of water, it could be, and the commercial districts. For the gravity main, you have 50% in very low and 47% in low, and only 3% in high. Again, this is consequence of failure. For force mains, 43 is very low, 46 is low, and 3% medium, 4% high, and 4% in severe. And for manholes, 38%, 58%, 2%, 2%, respectively in 1, 2, 3, and 4 categories. So between these, this is your consequence of failure. The previous slide was the likelihood of failure. Between these two, we generate the risk factor. So what does that tell us?
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
If you
Go
want,
back.
could you go back one more? Okay, so when I look at something like this and then I say, our gravity mains, 94% are good. Time reference. So you got 94% that are good. And so our responsibility, an awful lot of it is, well, okay, we got to start putting money away to cover when we're 94% are poor.
Yes.
And so from our perspective, time frame is critical.
Yes.
And is time frame showing up in a slide coming up?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll get to the
Okay,
life
great.
cycle model. Great question. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're ahead of me. Okay, consequence.
Yeah.
Okay, so the risk map for your sewer system looks like this, and this is color coded, red being the worst. And it basically says it's taking the likelihood of failure, consequence of failure, and getting those for your system. You got 61% very low, 36% low, 3% in the 3 category, and then for force main 49, 42, 9 respectively, 1, 2, 3. Manhole 17, 79, 2, 2 in 1, 2, 3, 4 categories respectively. Now we're going to talk about your water system. So it's the same concept for determining the likelihood of failure for your water system, and then I'll cover the consequence of failure for a water system. For a water system, the main indicator that we've used for condition is estimated remaining useful life, or estimated useful life remaining, which is based on material date of install and that kind of information. You got the fire hydrant visual inspection and the inspection tank reports, which were provided by staff for evaluation. So, and as I talk about the hydrants conditions, and this is going to come up in future slides too, I know you guys have been actively replacing those hydrants and making progress towards that. For water mains, 96% in good category, 4% in fair. Valves, 92% in good category, 8% in fair. Hydrants are in the 3 categories, so excellent, fair, end of life. And then storage, 1, and it's in good category. Consequence of failure. So same concept, when the water line fails, who doesn't get water? So that's where we're talking about service impacts, but we include critically included. Take 2. Critical infrastructure, proximity to critical infrastructure in there, and we include the critical users as well. So consequence of failure for your asset, if we divide up your inventory into percentage, you got for water mains, 16% 1. You guys can see the rest. I'm not gonna read every number for you. For the risk map that you get for your water system, once you take into account the consequence of failure, LOF, COF, this is the result. And the result is 17% 1, 68, 14, 1, throughout the low, significant, and high. And then for valves, you got 17% low, 17 very low, 47 low, and 9% significant. And majority of this we're going to come back to when we talk about installing valves and segmentation. So let's talk about the capital improvement plan, which is one of the elements completed on the project. We took all the information from the GIS, from the inventory, from the risk and the consequence and the likelihood of failure, and developed a short list of CIP projects. And we sat down with the town staff and went through it with fine tooth comb and included all the projects that should be on there and took away projects that shouldn't be on there. So this included that condition assessment data, the segmentation analysis for the water, and the risk analysis for basically that risk-based methodology, which I just covered for you. And then including all the knowledge that you guys have on the system. What you're looking at is a 10-year sewer CIP. I believe earlier today you guys saw the big ticket item, which was a wastewater treatment plant. And we have allocated on the CIP for pump station replacement, you have 150 for the different lift station maintenances. We've allocated money, or we put in the cost in that particular year. Again, this is based on staff input and the progress that they have in the system as well. And we have a CCTV line item over there to be included to get better data for your lines, for the actual physical condition of your sewer lines. We talked about the having the redundant 10-inch PVC force main and then the 6-inch force main valve. Now I'm going to cover the life cycle model piece. That's the one you just asked about. So for the water system, again, this is the culmination of all the input from the town staff and the results of the asset management plan and the analysis of the risk. And you can see there are 155 proposed valve installations for $1,080,700. That would give you better control over your system to be able to shut off one part, maintain it without letting it affect other parts of the system. Piece of hydrant replacement. Again, this is at a 3 hydrant annually, spread out over 10 years. Valve inspection, acoustic testing, and C-factor testing. That will help. Again, with the water lines, it's not like you can put a CCTV in there and look at the inside of the pipe. So these are different methods that we could use to get the condition of your water line, acoustic testing and C-factor. And the hydraulic model, which we have right there for $150,000, that informs the C-factor testing, which can be supported if you guys choose so with the new money that was just approved for the water AIA. The district meter installation and pressure sensors, that's going to again help you guys to know how your system is performing, which areas, how much water is going where, and how you can isolate and segregate the system so that you can maintain it in distinct portions. And then there are 3 line items for the RO filters and the water treatment plant. And then well maintenance and the life cycle model for the hydrants, which I'm going to talk about next. So
the valve replacement line, that's $1 million. You've got it spread out over 10 years.
yes,
Is that just to kind of more or less equally spread it out over those 10 years? Is there a work factor involved that you couldn't do those over 5 years, or is that was just for financial purposes to spread it out?
so it's both. I mean, most times you want to kind of take it phase approach, you know. So our goal here was to identify those chunks that you can tackle every year without overloading without putting too much on the plate. And
I guess I'm trying to figure out whether that's based on personnel and just ability to install valves, or whether that's based on ability to pay for valves.
Or critical need for those values.
Right.
It's
Well,
just based on the financial, sorry, this is Deepti with Withers Ravenel. Just based on the financial needs or financial requirements. We looked at the priorities for the village based on all the projects with respect to your hydrants, with respect to maintenance or the life cycle modeling recommendations, everything. And based on that, we in discussions with the village staff, figured it would be the best path forward to have these equally spaced over the next 10 years. But if these funds become available, there's always, you could have more valves installed, complete this entire project within 5 years.
That's what I'm asking is if the funds were available,
Yeah.
you would recommend we do this as quickly as we could, assuming the funds.
Oh, wait, is that truly what you mean? You mean do it as quickly as we could, or I thought you were saying we're fine to do it on your schedule?
Well, if these funds become available, then that would assist the village in isolating areas without like impacting a larger customer base whenever there's a water main break or any repairs that need to be done.
Yeah, so Slaughter, what I heard there was that yeah, I mean, if you can do it faster, always do it faster. It's always going to be better. But given that we're going to have competing capital requirements, we're okay to work on the schedule that they have laid out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're replacing valves. These are new valves that we don't have today and just make the system better. So it's a question of what's the priority of making the system better? How critical is the system important or not?
Well, is segregating parts of the water system important or not, right? Because that's really what this allows us.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Segregation.
So do we, when we have a water main break, do we cut off 100 homes or do we cut off 5 homes?
Who's home?
Exactly.
That's the critical piece.
I know.
Now you know which valves you need to put in.
When we're talking about the water system, we're talking about valve replacement. Old valves that need to be replaced, not talking about new ones.
No, these are, according, from what I'm hearing, these are new valves in place. We don't currently have valves.
That's not true.
Is
Those are valves to replace.
that's very different from what you guys have said.
Some of them will be in new positions, but other ones will be in positions that we can use. So the ones that are in position that were reused will be replacements, and there will be some installed at new locations. So it's not entirely the.
Okay, I'm just saying, because their slide said 155 new valves.
Yeah, it is.
That they're in different places than where we have them today, not replacing valves we currently have. So there's a big difference. It'd be nice to know which is actually true.
So let's just circle back on that and make sure we've got that.
That seems like an opportunity to be, you know, if we can make the water system better, which, you know, we have a fair number of, water lines break from time to time and you'll get bad weather, got freezing, all that kind of stuff. You know, it seems like an opportunity if it truly is one, but we should identify whether it really is.
So the spirit of it is to district.
So there's all,
Right. I mean, I get the idea behind it. I just trying to understand what.
so there's also a proposed project that we are looking as a part of the newly awarded AIA program that is valve inspections and exercising schedule. So we'll be like part of that project. One of the scope items that we have discussed is looking at your existing valves, how they are, whether they are performing well, what is the condition of those valves and things like that, so that we can then do a more enhanced segmentation analysis, looking at how many existing valves need to be replaced and how many new valves need to be installed. This project, the segmentation analysis that we did as a part of the Water AIA project, was just from a high level standpoint because it was an additional scope item that we added after we got through a certain portion of the project. So just looking from like an overall high level standpoint. But as you see in the district metered analysis project, and it says like enhanced segmentation analysis, that will look at your existing valves and then provide like new valves if there's any changes that need to be done within that 155 proposed valves. So that's, we're going strategically. Again, we're looking at from a overall comprehensive standpoint, but then we're also want to look at, from what is there existing and then what changes in the future based on additional hydraulic modeling, district metered analysis, and performing enhanced segmentation analysis.
Okay. How did you do testing on the valves right now to reach the determination that you did on status?
For condition,
Yeah.
it was age-based. DP on the valves, we did
Yeah.
useful life, right?
Yes, it was just based on the age. So it was not based on visual observations or our team doing any field inspections or investigations. Now, again, that is a part of your next round of AIA that we have included in that scope of work that we submitted to DWI last year.
So gang, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I think I have this right, that what they did is they did that whole analysis up front where they multiplied various factors against each other to say that here is our recommended course of action after assessing everything that we know. And I think that so while I've heard the response, yeah, it's better to replace all valves as soon as you can. What I did hear them say very specifically, and the whole reason they did that whole analysis was to say, got that. It's always better to put new in all the time, right? But here's a recommended course for the island.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's being said at all.
Well,
actually.
that's what I'm saying.
I think
To just ask them that question. Is that what was said?
I think what we're hearing is that for the existing valves, the assumptions were made based on the current age of those valves as to what condition they are. We won't know the actual
Sections are operating.
We won't know the actual
Yeah.
condition until the completion of the next phase. I don't know.
Right.
Correct.
For the 155 new valves, this is a general recommendation that we need new valves to further segment the water system so that when we have a problem, we can isolate that problem to the smallest area that makes sense. And we aren't
Yes.
affecting many critical infrastructure issues. So the 155, assuming you go through and map out exactly where they need to be, installing those as quickly as possible would make the system more resilient than it is today. This isn't a question of replacing valves that are aged. This is a question of putting new valves in places that they would need to be to further segment the system.
Can you just confirm that that is what you meant? Is that what?
Yes,
you
that
meant?
is
Okay.
correct. That is
Thank you.
correct. And again, based on this additional analysis that we're going to be doing at the upcoming round for, enhanced segmentation analysis, looking at your existing valves, that number might change. That will also include replacing your existing valves, based on their condition, and if there's any further changes that need to be done on that 155 proposed valves. So that will be updated in your next CIP if it needs to be updated. But at this point, from what we have gathered as a part of the project, what we have done, we have come up with that 155 proposed valves.
When I look at your 10-year, this 10-year water plan, and I look at the numbers being spread out over 10 years, the underlying statement in my mind is it has to be done. It's not critical to have it done tomorrow. Look at it over 10 years, you can get this done and you're okay. Don't worry about it. Versus when I look at something like, some of these other items, hey, you better throw money at this right away. And by the time the fourth year comes around, you've already spent the money you need to do because it is critical. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers.
It's more a question of how good you want the system to be. It's not a question of spending it now versus later. You could wait. You could never put the new valves in. The system will still work. It'll just mean that when the water main, you've got to turn 1,000 customers.
Yeah, but there's
So it's not a question of do it now or, oh, yeah, we can just wait. It's a question of if it's something we want to do to make the system better, is that a priority?
System upgrade.
Is making the water system more resilient a priority? That's the question.
Yeah, and what I'm doing, I'm throwing another level of priority on is if I see front-loaded numbers, it's like, well, this is a critical thing that needs, so when I'm assessing priorities, I'm looking at numbers, well, you can do this in the course of 10 years, but you have to do this one in 3. I'm going to be looking at priorities that way. I'm not looking at specific things.
I would disagree with that, but that's fine. I mean, it's a factor. I agree, but I think what we're hearing here is that there's a way to make the system better. We have to decide how fast we want to do that.
Yeah,
Whether that's
or
10 years or ever. That
Right.
it's actually not critical that we do it. It's a nice to have, but is the system, is the resiliency of the water system a nice to have or not? And that's the question that we're getting here.
And please don't look at this as all or nothing.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some valves that are way more important than other valves. I have no doubt about that. So, yeah.
And that segmentation process, that project of segmentation hydraulic model is really going to inform where you get the most bang for your buck.
Okay.
And probably you can bucket them in highest gain, mid, and.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It does add resiliency. And
Once we get that, then we should be able to have a much better picture of how many and which valves would make sense to install first.
yes.
That's correct.
I just want to recognize too, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just the water side. We still have the sewer side,
Correct.
right? And their accounting, their analysis takes into account what we're going to have to invest on the sewer side. So
Sure.
spreading it across 10 years is,
That may be the right thing. I'm not.
Just balances, yeah.
This isn't like we say, because normally when you look at something like this, you would put that line out there and say, well, when are these valves going to go bad? Well, none of these are going to go bad. They're all new. And so what we don't know and what we should find out is for our existing valves, how many of those do we have to replace along this 10-year time frame, but based on their current condition? Hopefully none, because they're all in good shape, but we don't know that yet. And we will after the next phase of the project. So that's great.
Better information.
Okay, that's great.
Yes, your CIP is priority based, it's based on the condition. So if you have, like, if we have any direct condition assessment result, for example, if you did CCTV in one of your pipes and then the results show that the pipe is in a poor condition, it's failing, it has the highest structural defects and everything. Yes, we will put that at the top of your list that this pipe needs to be replaced. It's going to like break at any point. But if there are lines, if there are projects that is, for example, yeah, if you will have these valves, or if you put this conducting this condition assessment, one of the projects that we have listed is that acoustic testing and C factor for your high risk lines. So that is a project that is not needed right now because your system is in a good condition just based on that age factor. But those lines are in a fair condition, but few years from now they could be going into that poor condition timeline, and at that point those lines need to be, you need to keep an eye on that. You need to look at, because the consequences of failure of those lines is high. So even though those lines are in a fair condition now, you don't have to go and replace those lines. You give it out a few years and then kind of do some C factor testing, acoustic testing to get that direct condition of those lines before those lines would be recommended for replacement or rehabilitation. So these are all priority based.
Great.
Can you go back to the slide before? When I'm looking at the lift station maintenance there for those, that doesn't seem to jive with what our plan was that we've, more recently done. JP, is that pushing things out further, or did
Which line you looking at?
The lift station.
all the lift stations? And I guess I'm trying to reconcile two things, because earlier it looked like you said 96% of them were in good shape. But then it looks like we're proposing here, what is that, 5 or 6 of them need to be replaced in the next 3 years. I think when we redid the lift station project, we went from 5 a year for 3 years, and then we went to 3 a year over 6 years. And now this would be suggesting we're just doing 1 next year. And maybe we're only going to get to 6 in the next 3 years.
Yeah, I'll have to go
Right.
back and look at that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We have that out there on the lift station project right now.
When the last time we gave her information, I'll have to go back and check.
Yeah. And I don't think they match with the ones that we said we were going to do this year.
Yeah, I'll go back and check.
Yeah, just to make sure it makes sense and we're tracking it the right way.
Thank you. Okay. So this goes back to the question you asked earlier about the timeline. So the life cycle model takes into account we calibrate it for X number of years and then project these assets degrading based on a degradation curve. As every asset degrades and it reaches end of life, the life cycle model recommends, okay, it's time for replacement. Then it sums up the entirety of your expenditure for your system and kind of gives you a recommendation of what should be your annual investment for your system. So it's not about, it basically works it backwards. Like, okay, if I'm looking at 50 years, how much do I need every year?
So reply.
And we're recommending $40,000 annual investment to replace approximately 395 linear feet of sewer and the associated manholes. And for the force mains, $160,000 annually, which would translate to about 1,500 linear feet of force main replacement annually. For the water mains, the same life cycle model process, identified about $110,000 annual investment for your water mains and valves. That should address about 900 linear feet of your system per year. And for the hydrants, I recommended $90,000 annual investment to achieve a fair condition level of service for your water system. And I want to acknowledge that you guys have already been replacing hydrants and putting money towards this. The recommendations at 90, it's not that you haven't done anything up until now. Or like grid study, this is a placeholder. Shannon will go over it right after I finish. The project schedule, as I mentioned earlier, going over the different tasks of the project. All tasks on the project are complete. The draft asset management plan is complete, and the final deliverable asset management plan and the project closeout with the grant will be in March. Next is funding. We opened with talking about how you guys got another $150,000 for water as grant and $150,000 for sewer as grant. So we're talking about funding strategies to basically pay for your CIP. We look at our funding team looks at the different funding opportunities that are there, the state revolving fund, other DWI, PFAS or water quality, lead service line, lead and copper line funding. So we will be looking at all of these different funding sources. These are the opportunities to see which ones you qualify for. One of the advantages of having done an asset management plan and a CIP is a lot of times in applications, you get additional points for your grant application for having done that work. So that's a great thing for the community. The next steps will be to, as you guys update your system, you replace lines, you replace valves, you replace hydrants, pump stations, to keep everything updated, keep the asset attributes updated, location, material, date of install, all those things, including condition. Refining your project cost estimates as we chew through the CIP column by column every year, you get a better refinement on your project costs, and then developing a formal O&M program. The recommendation is to build a preventive maintenance schedule. So again, moving, like you said earlier, moving more from a reactive to a proactive approach to managing your infrastructure. Next, we recommend that you guys coordinate whenever it is that you have a project for your street. You want to coordinate that with your water, so you dig up the road one time, and you won't dig up any new road that you put in to replace a water line. So is coordinating those efforts together to make sure you get the best value out of what you're installing. Talk about enhancing the annual planning and budget. So including the AMP update in the yearly budget cycle, that's going to keep this living document alive, and it'll get better, more and more useful to you every iteration as you update the asset management plan. And then really leveraging your data, the likelihood of failure and consequence of failure, to move towards a risk-based CIP prioritization, which should give you your list of these are the 10 things we need to focus on for the next number of years. And then funding strategy. Identifying those opportunities. And again, Shannon is going to talk about it. So I want. Thank you guys. Any questions, any slides you would like me to go back to? I know I rushed through it because I know I was behind schedule, so I hope that's what I'm.
Good job, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.